Before we start, we have two additional people that you haven't heard from yet. So let me introduce them quickly, and I'll let them introduce themselves. So closest here, we have Leif Erikson, so take it away.
Does it work? Hello? Hello?
Bring it close.
All right, I'll just try to talk up. How's that? My name's Leif Erikson. I'm with GE Digital. I came here recently from Gartner Group. Prior to that, I spent 15 years in various different roles with various different vendors in the analyst business. And first 15 years of my career as an engineer in the oil and gas industry. In fact, Jim, I've got you beat by a few years. I started doing digital in 1984 in the oil sands in northern Canada. And I have you beat on that one because it was 10 hours north of the Montana border. But here we go. Hello, hello, that's better. Anyway, we've come a long way. I'll talk a little bit about that as we get into the panel discussion, but it's very exciting to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And next from SAP, Stefan Gertzgen.
Yeah, thanks, Craig, for inviting me. So my name is Stefan Gertzgen. I'm with SAP. And the reason why I'm here is we worked together with Eastman on that digital boardroom concept, what Bill nicely explained. And I'm in charge at SAP of global industry marketing for chemicals. And in that function, I'm driving the marketing strategy, industry strategy, the whole notion of positioning and messaging of our entire product portfolio, and also enterprise thought leader, or basically executive thought leadership programs. So prior to that, I spent 9 years in management consultancy, working with companies like AspenTech, A.T. Kearney, and also SAP Business Transformation Consulting. Prior to that, I spent 11 years in the chemical industry. Basically, I'm an R&D chemist by education. I worked in R&D and in global business development, and then in business process management, and that basically bridged or created the bridge to the IT world where I changed to. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I think maybe it'll work better if we put the microphone here and
Sure, that works here.
keep that organized. So we've got a lot of talent here, and we've had some very interesting presentations. So I wonder if we have any questions yet from the audience. There's one here. If you wait for 1 second till we get a microphone up there. And if you could please just introduce yourself as you ask the question.
All right. Hi, I'm Mike Cannon from Rockwell. A big piece of this, and I think a couple of you guys have mentioned it, is the sponsorship, the executive leadership. So kind of a two-part question. How important is that? And do you have any guidance for people to get that executive sponsorship?
Yeah, it's very critical. My guidance on how to get it would be to speak in their language. So the folks that work for me, they go, how come everything that you propose, everyone says yes to, and all the other folks, they say no to? And I said, because you have to, if you speak in engineering terms, it's going to be a dead ear. So what are the business terms that would allow them to sponsor any of these kinds of activities? So what are we trying to drive? Are we trying to, I like the way Bill had his presentations because they're the same terms we use. Are you trying to grow the business? Are you trying to transform the business? Are you trying to kind of sustain the business? Which one of those things are you trying to achieve? Because quite frankly, the sponsorship doesn't care so much about how you're going to do that. If you're going to pick GE's product or SAP's or do this network or do that network, you're over their head immediately. So my strategy was get sponsorship basically on the topics that they have. So if I'm going to grow the business, here's what this is going to do for me.
Yeah, so I would agree. I would agree with that, and a couple other thoughts. As you're engaging on any new initiative, and if you're going to take on something big like APM or investing significantly in technology associated with asset management, I think you have to address it with your executive at the goals and objectives level. So what are the strategic business goals and making the connections there? So that's at the highest level. I think also you have to make it real in certain ways. So, senior people really they understand risk. So, if you're presenting your solutions as influencing your understanding of risk and therefore your ability to make decisions, that resonates really well. The other thing that resonates really well, and I think lends itself to what we're all trying to do here, is measurement. So measuring performance in many different ways. So at the highest level, the ability to measure and create metrics and KPIs, I think you have to build that into your approach here and not leave it in the technical world. And maybe I'm repeating a little bit, but that's certainly important. So generally, if you can do those things, measurement and risk determination, then you're creating management clarity, and that really resonates at an executive level. So there are a few of my thoughts.
In our case, what I was showing, even getting to this digital boardroom, which was the information, the executives were interested in, it took us 2 years, I think, just to get that opportunity. Luckily, we were able to get into, and it was in the executive room, with all the VPs and the executives to hit that. And but once they're on board, obviously, you'll get that sponsorship, and what we're trying to do is transform all the processes. So it's a big challenge, but like I said, it took us 2 years just to get that opportunity.
Bill, just to follow up on that. So you got you got it in front of them, which I really like, and seem to get the buy-in. What are the next steps, do you think? And is there, and how do you, or maybe is there a need to transform the company's culture as part of this process?
Luckily for us, because, well, one problem we have is actually we do not have a burning platform, which is a downside. If you have a burning platform, it's much easier to go forward. But in our case, I think we've done enough discussions, and our CIO has been very good about that, is talking to them. It's just, I think their bottom line is they know we have to do something different, so they're kind of on board. They're still, biggest thing is how much is it going to cost, and more importantly, what's the business disruption. So our take now is just kind of wait it out, keep feeding the information, and wait till the timing is right, and then I think we're going to do try to change, look at new platforms, work on some SAP, the new generation, but it's, I don't know when that will hit, but we're still just working at it.
Okay, thanks. So do we have another question here? We have a couple.
Well, to dramatically drop from the executive level back down to nuts and bolts, Greg, you had a slide that mentioned and it talked about possible ways of deployment, possible deployment approaches for all these swarms and stacks and pyramids and icebergs of apps that you guys have to deal with. Where are you? Where are you guys? Where does Greg think the industry is between right now between virtualization, which is how I would have thought about deploying a huge swarm and stack of apps that I need to kind of package and be able to handle and do things with, and containerization, Docker and those sorts of technologies. Are any of you using? Are you moving from VMware to Docker? I think is the simple way down on the floor, low-level question I'm trying to ask.
So does anyone on the panel want to tackle this one?
Are those apps virtualized? I assume VMware is all over the place now, or some equivalent. I know that VMware is worried about Docker. Should they be in your case?
So, I'll speak from our perspective, and there's many applications, platforms, if you will, and more coming, and certainly the integration of those is challenging. But from our perspective, that challenge is not as great as the business transformation challenge. So, we'll utilize the latest available tools, and as the security around open capabilities increases, we'll adopt. But in the meantime, we'll do the harder work on interfacing and security, and we look forward to when advances come. But it's manageable, And for us, the biggest challenge is sustaining the business thinking, behaviors in the business, and new people coming in the business, understanding a new way of doing business. So that would be my thoughts.
Okay, what about the suppliers on the panel? Any view about this? Stefan, you want to tackle it?
Yeah, I would perfectly echo that. I mean, what we see, we have a lot of customers coming to us and say, okay, we understand the need to digitally transform. That's a given. But the question is, especially at the executive level, you need that top-down buy-in, otherwise it won't work. You cannot start a transformation initiative at a lower level and just in a silo. That gives you probably in that silo some advancements, but at the end of the day, if you really want to strategically move along, as Bill, for example, explained, you have to do that top-down. And then we have a lot of discussions with our customers and say, okay, the CEOs and the CIOs understand that the change or the need for change, but the question is, what should they do? For example, what's the value in different areas? So what's the route to get there? So we, for example, see many customers say, hey, we understand the need to get on Suite for HANA, but how do we get there? What's the journey? What are the migration tools? So, and that's the reason why we, for example, have built a lot of consultancy services. I mean, executive workshops and things like that to really explore, jointly with the customers, the right use cases and also develop the right paths to get there. So we developed a new tool, which is called the Digital Transformation Navigator, which basically pulls not only product and solution roadmap up for customers, but also migration tools, integration tools, which come together. So it's no longer a product and solution play. It becomes a transformation, a migration play, and an integration play. So that all has to be bundled together. And that's the challenge what we have, because our customer understands that they need to transform. Some have better ideas, some have less good ideas, but at least we need to help them, and they come to us and ask for help. So that's for us the challenge we are facing, and we need to respond to that.
Leif?
Yeah, let me just add that I'm having terrible technical difficulties today, as you can see. There we go. Let me just add that we think the issue, and this is a point that Jim brought up, is that you've got all these systems in place, you've got the data there already. So the question is, how do you bring that data together and how do you integrate it? Because it's disparate types of data. So that's what we're focused on at GE and GE Digital, which is the Predix platform, which is the goal there is taking real-time data, maintenance data, video data, you name it, and bringing it together in a way that you can drive better decisions. And you heard that from all of the speakers today. It's all about driving better decisions. And so getting that data in a place, and the best place, I mean, people talk about the cloud as a place that you can go to, save money in terms of your infrastructure. But at the end of the day, the main benefit of the cloud is allows you to put that data in a place that you can share it with both internally within your organization, and we all know how hard that is, as well as externally with your partners. So that's really the crux of it.
Okay, thank you. So we had a question, we still have a question over here? If we could get the microphone. Yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah, let's do it.
The opposite problem. So now, if you have a leadership that is overexcited about all this, right? So they go into conferences like this, they go to CEO meetings and all that stuff. They come back and, hey, I met 3 people that were talking about this and this and this. How come we're not doing anything? So my question is, it's 2 parts. So one is that how do you calm their nerves down? That we got it. We have this sort of taken care of. We're looking at this in the right context and so on and so forth. And the other part is that in that scenario, I think it seems like we have to be able to educate them a little bit more, right? So they hear these things, there are a lot of buzzwords, they don't have the technical context to sort of put it in the right place. Whereas our job is to then bring them up to speed on what these technologies mean, how they are, in context of what we do. Any thoughts on those topics?
So just quickly, now here's the problem. The executive team is a believer, and they want you to make it happen. So How do you calm them down first and then educate them?
Couple thoughts for you. I've heard no one yet talk about what are the prerequisites for success. So, you know, the CEO could go to a meeting and he could say, yeah, I want that. I want that dashboard that I just saw. That's absolutely what's going to transform my business. What's it going to take to do that? And so it hit me the other day. Did some work with IBM and looked at Watson and tried to look at maintenance data and other kinds of stuff. And here's what I found. Garbage in, garbage out is still relevant. So I thought maybe, you know, you think about how we've transformed our recycling bins at home, and you can kind of throw all your recycling in one bin, and it magically goes through the recycling plant, and then it goes into paper and aluminum and so on and so on. I thought maybe we could do that with manufacturing. We take all our crap data, we throw it into this pot, and then we have all this smarts that comes out and we get a nice dashboard. That's not true yet. And so we still have this homework to do around, someone else talked about data governance, master data, all this ugly stuff that nobody wants to talk about. You can't build stuff on top of stuff. You have to get it right. So if I have executives that are really excited, I don't want to temper that, but I want to put the reality to them to say, great, now we finally get to go after the blocking and tackling that we've ignored for years. So that you can get your sexy stuff at the end, you get your dashboard to run your business, but now we can get after the processes that are going to keep this thing sustainable.
Good.
I might add something to that, which is that, and I agree 100% with Jim, that data quality is a huge issue, and a lot of executives don't think about that, right? They just assume the data they're getting is good. But analytics is going to be part of the answer to that, right? So the ability to use analytics to look at the data as it's coming in and determine whether indeed it is good or bad will contribute to that.
Maybe I'll just add, from a tactical perspective, as you're designing, you know, a project or a transformation for that matter, you want to design in some early wins, even if they're simple and small, because if your executive members truly on board, then they can leverage that too. So you give them something to take away and talk about. I think that's important. The visual things, the other thing is, you know, the kinds of things we're talking about has a tremendous technological component to it. There's lots of things going on in the background. We're creating intelligence for reliability engineers and planners, et cetera, where there's tremendous value. But there might be some things on the visual side that's appealing to the executive that you want to get into your plans early. Again, to give them something to hold on to and to point at and to help them support you.
Okay. So that's pretty good. Did I see one more question out here? I'm not sure. Here we have.
Earlier this morning, we talked about the three different areas of technology: operational, information, and engineering. And the question that I have for the panel is, which of those areas do you find the greatest interoperability challenges for software, and what would you like vendors to do about it?
I don't think we can answer this one.
You know, I'll take a stab at a general answer. I'm not sure it gets to it, but you know, I think in most, and I'll speak for our organization, but I hear about it when I talk to other companies too, that you know, between IT and the OT, there's typically, you know, a large chasm of understanding, and so that's going to be challenging in any project of this nature. So building, you know, our tactics were to try hard to build that relationship. Obviously, I'm in the OT side, or my department is, and try to build that relationship, be patient, work on the communication and maybe education. But I don't know the easy answer. But beware as you embark on it, you have to be aware that that's going to be difficult.
Okay, thanks.
I'll just add to that, exactly that. It's difficult. I don't know if any of the three, one's harder, easier. I mean, they're all difficult. We don't have a solution. I mean, everything, it's just what you said, the patience, the cooperation. The biggest time, I think what we have is the cooperation and getting all the areas to agree and just talk, just work with each other is what we're finding is some of the difficult things.
I would add to the wish list, if some entrepreneur out there wanted to develop a self-documenting capability that could go out and sniff everything that's on the network and tell you what's in it, where is it at, give me the whole database of all of that stuff, so that I could then have another thing, which would be self-mapping to the IT side. So you think about the hard work that it takes to find out where all of your data is, what it looks like, what its health is, and then you have to map it to the corresponding connector points on the IT side. This exercise in mapping and this exercise of discovery just take way too much time. So if there were software creators out there that could make an easy button for that, that would be very helpful.
And when you entrepreneurs think of that, be sure you keep security in mind, because that would be a very helpful thing. So with that, I think we're at the end of our time. So please join me in thanking our speakers and panelists today.